So we've created this straight section of wall here, but you'll notice that on the other layer I've also kept this quarter section. And the reason I've done that is so that I can create more duplicates and adjust them and vary them so that I can recombine them together to create straight sections that are slightly different from one another, and this will help add some variation to the straight sections as we repeat them throughout the level. So I'm going to select this quarter section here, press Ctrl D to create a duplicate, and I'm going to press M on the keyboard and move it to this layer here, which is empty. So I'm going to switch over to that layer here, and I'm going to start to amend this quarter section and just to add some variation here. So I think that what I will do for this section is I will add some extrusions here, some perhaps panels on this section of the wall, and maybe I will add some beveling into the floor here. So let's get started at doing that. I'm going to press Tab to enter the sub-object edit mode, and let's say I want to add maybe some panels in here. So to do that, I'm going to move up here and insert a new edge loop that runs across here. I'm going to leave it in the center here, the middle, like so, and I'm going to add perhaps a panel here and a panel here. So I'm going to select this face like so, and press Ctrl and right click and choose Inset Faces. So I'm going to inset that face here to add an inset like this, and I'm going to select this face over here, and again right click and choose Inset Faces, and perhaps inset this one a bit differently. Now I perhaps want these a bit more narrow, so I'm going to select this one, press the R key on the keyboard to switch to the Scale tool. Let's just scale that one in just a little bit. I'm also going to take off the snapping tool here and select this one, and perhaps just leave this here, maybe scale this further down a bit more like that, so there's some variation. And what I want to do is now to select each one of these, so this one, and we'll extrude them outwards. So I'm going to press Alt X on the keyboard, just extrude that out just a little bit, and these faces are selected. So I'm going to press the R key for the Scale tool and just scale these in a little bit. You'll see that these are scaling towards one another, so I'm just going to scale these just separately, just a little bit like so, maybe that one like that, and maybe that one a little bit like that. So we've got some extrusions on the wall there, and that's looking pretty good. Now we also want to do something similar with the floor here, so I'm going to choose the Loop Cut and Slide. Again, I'm going to insert the edge there, and just perhaps put it maybe, well, I'll just put it there for now, but I'm going to come over here, reset this back to the center, and I want to increase the number of divisions. So I'm going to increase the number of cuts to maybe 2, like so. So we've got 2 cuts there now, and I want to use the Scale tool to just scale them apart on the floor, maybe about there, like so. And we're going to select maybe this face and this face, Control right click, Inset Faces, and I'm going to just inset that to about there, and maybe just scale it out just a little bit like so. Actually, I just want to select this face and scale them just out maybe to about there. So we've got these 2 faces, and I want to just extrude these inwards. Now notice that there are 2 faces together, and there are 2 kinds of extrude tools. There's extrude and extrude region. In fact, there's extrude individual as well. I'm going to choose extrude region to keep these 2 faces together and extrude them downwards. So I'm going to select maybe about there, like so. Now I want the corners of this part here to be curved and beveled. So to do that, I'm going to switch to edit mode, and I'm going to select this edge and select this edge. I'm holding down Shift to select multiple edges like so, and press F to just frame those. And I want to switch to the bevel tool, so I'm going to press Control, right click, and choose bevel like so, and I can just extrude this outwards and maybe something like that. I can change the number of subdivisions here if I want to, so maybe about 4 subdivisions, that's fine. That's looking pretty good at the moment. And I'm going to select this face again and select this face, and Control right click and inset those faces a bit more like so, for example. And again, select this face and this face, and extrude it upwards, maybe to about there. And finally, I'm going to select this face again, Control right click and inset that maybe a bit further to there. Now, if I just exit the edit mode, now everything is looking okay at the moment, but there are some problems with regards to topology. If you look carefully here, you'll see that what we have is an n-gon. Now, an n-gon is a face, a polygon with more than 4 sides. And when we're working with games, we don't want n-gons. We can have 3-sided or 4-sided polygons, but anything more is not really acceptable. So if you look at this face, for example, you see you've got one side there, one edge here, one there, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So we've got about 12 sides to this face, and that really is not good. That's not what we want at all. So I'm going to be addressing the n-gon problem next. So in this movie, I want to address the issue of n-gons. And these are polygons with more than 4 sides. And they are enemies of real-time 3D games, and so we must eradicate them. That means we need to fix up the topology in this mesh so that all of its polygons have 4 sides or less. So right now we can see here that the n-gons primarily is on this face and this face. We can see this quite clearly just by looking at these polygons. But sometimes it's not so easy to spot the n-gons in a mesh. And so we need Blender to help us find them. And it just so happens that Blender provides us with a convenient tool for searching for n-gons in a mesh. And we can access that tool, make sure you're in face mode, and choose select, select faces by sides. And you're going to get these parameters that you can see here. Make sure that the extend checkbox is not ticked. And we want to search for all faces that have greater than and 4 sides. If I select, for example, 3 sides, you can see that practically everything is selected. But I want to search for faces with more than, greater than 4 sides. And you can see that it selects all of those faces for us. And so we've identified all of the faces with more than 4 sides. Now you may look at these sides here and you may say, well, look, hey, there's actually exactly 4 sides. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So why is Blender highlighting these? And the reason is because we have doubled up vertices at these positions here. So we're going to be removing those doubles so that we can fix these faces here. But first I'm going to address fixing these faces here. So what I want to do is I'm going to the way I'm going to fix these is I'm going to move to vertex mode, and I want to select all of these vertices here. And I'm going to merge them together. Now I can do that by choosing Mesh and Vertices and Merge, or I can press Alt-M, or I can hold down the keyboard, the control on the keyboard, right click and choose Merge. So I'm going to choose Merge, and I want to merge all of them at the center, like so, and they're merged together into one vertex. And I'm going to repeat that procedure with these vertices here, so I'm going to select all of these, Control right click, choose merge, and a merge at the center. And again, I'm going to zoom out and move over to these vertices on this side. Select these ones, control right click, choose merge. Control right click, beg your pardon, choose merge at center. And again, the same for these ones, control right click and choose merge. Merge at center, like so. And so what we have now, if I go back to face mode and I switch to the select tool and select faces by sides, now you can see the only faces that are highlighted are these ones here. And these are because of doubled up vertices. So I'm going to switch to vertex mode and select, in fact I'm going to select all of the vertices in the mesh, control right click and choose remove doubles. And now when I switch back to face mode and I choose select by sides, we have no n-gons in this mesh at all, so all of the n-gons have been removed. And that is how we can go about removing all the n-gons in a mesh. So now we've created our mesh and it has only good topology, that is faces with 4 sides or less. So now we've removed all of the n-gons from this quarter section here that we've created, this more refined piece, and I can just then start to piece together a new straight section from this, just as we've seen before. I can select this piece, press Ctrl D on the keyboard to create a duplicate, press M then to move that to this layer here, for example. I'm going to switch to that layer. We have this piece. Move over here to the modifiers tab, and I'm going to be adding a mirror modifier. Again, by default it mirrors on the x-axis. I want to mirror on the y. I also want to make sure, press Ctrl Z to undo that, just transformed it there, but I want to make sure that I have the merge checkbox ticked to ensure that all the central vertices here between the mirroring are going to be merged together into one, so we don't end up with doubles. And I'm just going to click apply to bake in that modifier into this mesh. So we have that here, but of course we're not restricted to just creating a straight section from the same piece. If I go back to the quarter section that we've modeled here, I can recombine this quarter section with the other quarter section that we've made here. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to create a duplicate of this quarter section by pressing Ctrl D on the keyboard. Press M, and I'm going to move that to this empty layer here. I'm going to jump over to the other quarter section, again Ctrl D, and press M to move that to the same layer. Let's now switch to that layer, and we've got these 2 pieces on the same layer. So I'm going to select one of those pieces and just choose incremental snap and just move that off to the side here. So you can see we've got these 2 separate pieces. Now I want to merge them together, but of course right now you'll see that this piece is actually flipped the wrong way. We want to mirror this in the other direction. So I'm going to select this piece, and we can do that by inverting its scale. So let's just come over here, let's just expand this panel here to the left, and what we want to do is we want to flip its scale on the y-axis, because that's the green axis. So to negate its scale, all I have to do is push the negative symbol and it will flip its scale. You may notice that the scale is not 1, 1, 1, which were the starting values. And the reason for that is because when we come in here and change the dimensions of our pieces, it then changes the scaling factor. We're going to be dealing with that in a short while. So I'm just going to move this piece back here. Now of course, if I bake in this scale, let's say I want to reset the scale back so it's 1, 1, 1 at those defaults. Well, we can bake in the scale or freeze the transformations by choosing Object, and we can choose Apply, and I want to apply the rotation and scale, and now the scale sets back to 1, 1, 1. But you'll notice, let's just close this transform panel here. You'll notice that now all of a sudden I can't see the faces that I had before. If I turn around to the other side, you can see that there's this flipped shading, and what has happened is because I've inverted the scale, the normals of the shading have flipped, so I need to reflip the normals on these faces so that I can see it properly again. So I'm going to press the Tab key to come into sub-object mode, select faces, press Ctrl A to select all of those faces, and I'm going to flip them by choosing Ctrl right click and choose flip normals, and there now the normals are flipped back in the right direction. But of course these are still 2 separate mesh pieces. I can join them together into one mesh by selecting both meshes and choosing Join. And now these 2 meshes are combined together in one mesh. But of course if I open up sub-object mode again, the edit mode, by choosing Tab on the keyboard, and I move to vertex mode, you will see here that at the vertex level, let's just turn off snapping. If I pull these vertices apart, they're not connected or joined together. So I want to join all these central vertices together and merge them, remove those doubles. So I can press Ctrl A to select all vertices, Ctrl right click and choose remove doubles, and that will merge all the doubled up vertices together. And that looks good. I can select the vertex here, for example, and move it either side, and you can see now that these have been merged together. However, there is a part here where the topology does not correspond. You can see we've got a vertex here on this part of the mesh, but there's no corresponding part on this side of the mesh. And the reason for that is we've got this vertex here which doesn't match up nicely. So what I'm going to have to do here is use the knife tool to come in and start cutting in some new topology to get them to match up. I could leave them as they were and nobody would really notice the difference, but I like to keep the topology nice and tidy, so I'm going to choose the knife tool here. Move over this vertex. You can see the knife tool snaps to the vertices. You know when it's snapped because a red border is drawn around this green icon here. Right now it's not snapping to any vertex and you don't see that red border. But here, when I move over this vertex, you see the red border. So I'm going to click there and draw a line to, let's say, about here. It doesn't really matter at the moment, so I'm going to draw it about there and press Enter on the keyboard to insert that new geometry. And I'm going to do the same over here. Select the knife tool, select this vertex here, and bring in, right now it doesn't matter where I put the destination point, and just put in that vertex. Actually something has gone wrong there, I don't see the edge. Let's try that knife tool again. Select this vertex and bring it maybe over there and press Enter, and there we get that new edge. Okay, so what I want to do then is to snap this vertex to this vertex. So I'm going to choose vertex snapping, and I'm going to select this vertex and move it to snap to there, and select this vertex and move it to snap to there, like so. And then again I'm going to select all vertices, like so, vertex, Control A, right click, choose remove doubles, and there now all the doubles have been removed. We can now move this vertex and you see all those doubles have been removed. And we can in fact check to make sure that we have no n-gons or strange topology. Go to face mode, choose select, select faces by sides, and again you can see it selects no faces with more than 4 vertices, and in doing that we've also constructed a completely new straight section. So things are looking good. So now we've created another straight section, and in total we have 3 straight sections based on the different quarter sections that we've created. We've created 2 quarter sections, and combined together these can produce 3 straight sections. Now of course off screen I could go ahead and create even more variations and even more straight sections, but you don't need to see me do that because you've already seen the basic principles involved in creating straight sections. What I want to turn my attention to now is creating a corner section. That is a section in which the wall runs this way and then it turns sharply at a 90-degree angle. So to do that I'm going to be relying on our trusty friend, the famous quarter section. So let's go back to this layer here and select that quarter section and duplicate it by pressing Ctrl D. Press Enter on the keyboard to confirm that duplication, and I'm going to press M to move it to this central layer here at the bottom and just switch over to that layer. So here we have our quarter section that we're going to be using for creating a corner section. So I'm going to duplicate this again by pressing Ctrl D on the keyboard and open up the Object Transform panel here. And I'm going to be rotating this on the Z axis. Now notice in Blender the Z axis, the blue axis, is the up and down axis. Y is not up and down, it is Z in Blender. So in Z I'm going to be rotating this 90 degrees like so, and you can see now we have this section here, which is going to represent the wall running this way. But of course you can see that right now it's the wrong way around. I want this pillar piece to be on the other side. So I'm going to negate the scale for that, like so, and we've negated the scale. I'm going to make sure before transforming this back into position that I've got the transform selected here, the incremental snap, and I'm just going to be snapping that back over here. Now of course because I've inverted the scale, when I apply the scale we're going to see that we're going to have a problem with the shading because the normals are flipped. So to fix that problem, let's go into edit mode, switch to faces and select all those faces, and then press Ctrl right click and then just flip the normals like so. So now we have flipped those normals, and what I want to do now that I've flipped the normals is to select the floor for this piece and really just delete it. So I'm going to select this face and press delete on the keyboard and delete those faces like so. So I'm going to delete them, and now I can just move this into position, and now we're ready to sort of merge these two together. We see the wall's running this way and the wall is running that way, but of course we know that these vertices between the two meshes are not quite lined up properly as they should be yet. So we're going to need to be fixing that. So I'm going to select this mesh, and I'm going to choose join to combine them together. They're now one mesh, and what we can start to do is to stitch together the vertices to make these one integrated piece.